now that we are done with our typing our report and you have sent it in and they look so fabulous, we're ready to get back into our English book and look at page 293 and 294. We're going to finish that chapter 13 that we had started when we started our distance learning. Today we're going to talk about adjectives. Adjectives describe, they're describing words. They describe a noun. So our adjectives make our sentences more exciting, more interesting to read. Hopefully you put lots of adjectives in your habitat report. That will make it more interesting and I can kind of build a picture in my mind because of those adjectives that you write. So adjectives are really important in our writing, and that's what this page 293 talks about, expanding sentences to make them include adjectives so our writing is more interesting. Let's look in the yellow box. An adjective is a word that describes a noun. It can answer the questions, what kind or how many? Adding adjectives in front of nouns makes a sentence longer and more interesting. So it's not saying that without these your sentence is wrong, it's just not quite as interesting. So let's look at the example. The bee buzzed around the rose. Okay, we got it. We got in our mind a bee buzzing around a rose. Not really any details of it, but we've got that picture. But let's see how much more interesting it becomes when we read this. The noisy bee buzzed. So now maybe you're hearing a buzzing sound in your head around the pink rose. So now we have what it actually looks like and maybe a sound to go with it in our mind. So we have a little bit more knowledge or more interest in what's going on in the sentence. I wrote a few sentences down. Let's see if we can find our adjectives. The red roses smell nice. What is describing in there? Yeah, red. The red roses. What kind of roses? Red ones. Now, we could have said the roses smell nice, and we could say, okay, that's a fine sentence, but the red roses smell nice. That makes it a little more interesting. Let's look at the next one. A shaggy dog ran across the road. What kind of dog? A shaggy one. That's the adjective. We could have said a dog ran across the road, and maybe you would be thinking of a skinny wiener dog or a poodle dog with curly hair or whatever dog you have at home. But I was thinking of a shaggy dog. So if I add the word shaggy, that makes it really more descriptive and more interesting. It gives you more detail so you can make a better picture in your mind. Caleb held a noisy toy. What's the adjective there? Yeah, noisy. We could have said just a toy, but then we wouldn't get the idea of something bing, 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 bing in his hand or something. So when we add adjectives, it shows interest, it gives more details, and it helps us build a better picture in our mind, which is really a good reason for writing, is to build a picture in our minds. All right, so let's look at our page. Let's look at some examples and see if we got this all in our mind so we can expand some sentences and make them more interesting with our adjectives. Our directions say, mark the more interesting sentence. Draw boxes around two adjectives. 2 directions there. 3 points. We have to mark the more interesting sentences, the ones with adjectives. And then in that sentence, you're going to find 2 adjectives and you're going to box them. Not circle, not underline, box them, okay? Number 1, the 4 girls played a fun game. Or, the girls played a game. Which one gives you more detail? Which builds a more specific picture in your head? Top or bottom? Yeah, the top one, the first one. The 4 girls played a fun game. What are the adjectives there? What are describing? So you think in your head, let's see. The 4 girls. What girls? How many girls? 4. That's one. We're going to box that. Played a fun game. What kind of game? Fun. So there's our 2 adjectives that we're going to box. So we mark the more interesting sentence, that top sentence, and we box 4. And we box fun, because those are our adjectives that describe and add more interest to our sentence. Number 2, Ellie fell on the sidewalk. Or, little Ellie fell on the hard sidewalk. Which is more interesting and gives us a more specific picture? The second sentence, that's right. Little Ellie fell on the hard sidewalk. What are the adjectives that you see there? What kind of Ellie? A little one. So we're going to box little. Little describes how Ellie is. She's not a big adult like Mrs. Perry. She's little, like maybe somebody's sister. Little Ellie fell on the hard sidewalk. Hard describes the sidewalk. What kind of sidewalk? A hard one. I don't know if there's a soft one, but this one is hard. So we're going to box hard. Number 3. The 3 girls helped their good friend, or the girls helped their friend. Which is more descriptive? Yeah, the top one. Good. Where are the 2 adjectives in there? I see a how many and a what kind. How many girls? 3. Good. Box it. And what kind of friends are they? Good friends. So box good. Number 4, the girls showed love to Ellie. Or the young girls showed love to little Ellie. Which one? Yeah, the second one is more interesting. What are the 2 adjectives? What kind of girls? Young. What kind of Ellie? Little. In the picture, she doesn't look that little, does she? But that's how they are describing her. So box those 2. Now, on the next part, we are going to write an adjective in the blank that describes the underlined noun and makes the sentence more interesting. So they give us some choices at the end of our sentence. The girls made a blank card for Ellie. Our choices are pretty or I can't see what it says. Mine has marked off. It looks like we, but maybe it's not. So which one is going to be what it is? Pretty, a pretty card. What kind of card? A pretty card. Yes, so we're going to write pretty nice and neatly on the line. Number 6, they drew a blank cat on the card. Fast or gray? Now, which one would be easy to draw on a card? Fast or gray? Probably gray, because you could put some motion lines behind fast, I suppose, but our best interesting one we can do is the gray. Number 7, Ellie thanked the kind girls. What kind of girls? The kind girls. So we are going to put kind. All right, next one on the back. Write a sentence about a flower. Use an adjective that describes what kind of look, smell, or feel it has. So you could write about what color. You could write about how it feels. Maybe it's a velvety one, or soft, or stinky, or fragrant flowers. So make a good sentence. Put a capital, put your periods, write nicely, watch your spaces, do a great job with your sentence. And then you're going to do a few more of the problems like we did on the front. And then we're going to reach back a couple weeks and pull out our run-on sentences. And then we have a run-on sentence here. We have to split it into 2 parts and circle and mark those 2 that were wrong. Mark the predicate part and the subject part, and then write them as 2 sentences. They were wrong together. So we're going to write them as two correct sentences, okay? So we're going to take that run-on and split it back apart, okay? So make sure that you first expand sentences, and then the review is pulling that run-on sentence into two good short sentences.